Boxing Nation. I see you on YouTube.
Kevin, how you doing?
What's going on?
All right, man. How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, Triple G, baby. All right.
DONTAE'S Boxing Nation. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah. What up, DONTAE'S?
Right, that's right.
All about DONTAE.
Do it, DONTAE.
That's what it is.
There we go.
Quote, I met Jacobs. He's a full-fledged middleweight. I did put the blueprint out on the Golovkin fight, or in the Golovkin fight. He could beat him. When he hits you, you know you've been hit. I can see Jacobs beating him. If the eye wouldn't have gone, who knows? I think he's tough, Jacobs. If he uses the ring, he could beat him. The thing with Golovkin, he walks forward and he hits with big power shots. End quote. Now, I actually read this article on a couple different websites. And one website, I read this article, the writer, he put his own little twist on what Kell Brook had said by basically trying to make it seem like Kell Brook fought like a coward. Because he said, what Kell Brook is really saying is, if you just run around the ring and you hold Golovkin all night, I guess that's Kell Brook's blueprint, or that's the blueprint to beat Gennady Golovkin. So let's put these highlights back up of the fight. When you look at these highlights right here, does it look like the running and the holding is bothering Golovkin? Or does it look like the punches that Kell Brook is hitting Golovkin with is bothering Gennady Golovkin the most? You be the judge. And you know what? Let me just freeze this shot for a second. Now, in this shot you guys are looking at right here, you see that at the moment, Kell Brook, he's not running, he's not holding, and you see the position that Gennady Golovkin is in. Golovkin has Kell Brook where he wants him, right? And what is Golovkin doing right now? Golovkin is in a defensive posture. Golovkin is not in a position to counter. What Golovkin is doing right now is he is waiting for Kell Brook to finish his onslaught, and then once he finishes, then Gennady Golovkin will say, okay, it's my turn, now I'm going to attack you. See, this is the difference between a Gennady Golovkin and a Mike Tyson. See, because Mike Tyson, what he would do is he would transition from defense to offense or vice versa in a second. So the majority of times Mike Tyson would knock you out or knock you down, it was in the middle of an exchange. While his opponent was punching, Mike Tyson was bobbing and weaving and countering you and knocking you out. Now, when we go back to this picture of Gennady Golovkin, one thing you'll notice, in contrast to Mike Tyson, look at Golovkin's stance. He's standing straight up. He's not really bobbing or weaving. He's standing straight up and he's waiting for Kell Brook to stop punching. Somebody else who is really good at transitioning from defense to offense, matter of fact, Paulie Malignaggi, he talks about this guy doing this transition all the time on Showtime, and that's the name that the racist fans love to hear the most, which is Floyd Mayweather. Paulie Malignaggi always talks about Floyd Mayweather's transitions from defense to offense. The fact that Floyd Mayweather can hit you right in the middle of you throwing your biggest bombs. Not only is that very clever, but it's extremely ballsy. It's almost like playing Russian roulette. Because if your timing is not right, then you're gonna be right there to get caught with that bomb and possibly knocked out. So it's a really, really ballsy play. You have to have a terrific accuracy and timing to pull it off. And this is the reason why Some fighters, they prefer to just say, you know what, I'm not going to take that risk. Let me just block all these punches, wait till this guy punches, and then I'll punch. Now, something else I wanted to say in response to the suggestion that Kell Brook's blueprint to possibly beating Golovkin is just running and holding. If you look at this picture right here of Golovkin's face, those bruises and welts and the bloody nose that he had in the fight, it didn't come from running and holding, obviously, right? It came from punches that were landed. And what really bothered Golovkin in that fight with Kell Brook was the speed and the accuracy. That's what really bothered Golovkin. Matter of fact, Golovkin, he said to Abel Sanchez before the fight, he asked his trainer, he said, do you think his speed will be different? This is what Golovkin asked his trainer. And it turned out that Kell Brook's speed was different. And once again, this is the reason why Golovkin, he didn't bother trying to counter what Kell Brook was throwing because he could not time the punches coming in. Now let's talk about Gennady Golovkin's strengths. Now, despite the fact that Gennady Golovkin, he doesn't transition the way a Mike Tyson or a Floyd Mayweather does, he executes a lot of other things perfectly. Gennady Golovkin is extremely accurate for an aggressive fighter. Usually aggressive fighters, they telegraph their punches, they're very predictable. When it comes to Gennady Golovkin, he's very creative with his attack and very accurate. He is very good at cutting off the ring as well. It's not so much of the foot movement that really gives him a problem. It's a combination of the foot movement and flashy speed. That's what gave him a problem when it came to Kell Brook. Gennady, I mean, if you just move and you don't really have a creative type of attack, then Golovkin is going to walk you down, and eventually your back is going to be against the ropes and you're going to get caught with a hellacious overhand right or a hook. Now, on top of Golovkin being extremely accurate, he definitely has tremendous power, no doubt about it. I believe he has 23 knockouts in a row, and regardless who he's fighting, for you to get 23 knockouts in a row, that is impressive, okay? Now, I had the privilege of watching Golovkin spar live, and he was sparring with, I believe, a cruiserweight. He was sparring with a light heavyweight and a cruiserweight. And Golovkin must have knocked down the cruiserweight, who at the time was a young undefeated prospect. He must have knocked him down probably about 4 to 6 times within 2 rounds. So he definitely has power, there's no doubt about it. And when you're in the ring with someone with that type of power, you're limited to making mistakes, which is pretty much what Kell Brook was referring to when he said if it wasn't for the injury that, of course, Golovkin caused, then who knows how the fight would have played out. That was the mistake that cost Kell Brook in the fight. When it comes to Danny Jacobs, he's not a welterweight. Even Gennady Golovkin himself said after the Kell Brook fight, one of the first things he said is the guy is not a middleweight, he's a welterweight. So even Golovkin is admitting that he had a major advantage over Kell Brook when it comes to natural size. He won't have that advantage over Danny Jacobs. If Danny Jacobs hits like a middleweight, which I believe he does because he is a middleweight, he has the power. If he has the accuracy of a Kell Brook, that makes for a very competitive, interesting fight. It's very difficult for me to pick Danny Jacobs in a fight like this just because he has been knocked out before. And, you know, I mean, I don't put too much emphasis on the, the Sergio Mora knockdown. I mainly focus on the knockout loss to Pirog. But once again, that was a long time ago. This fight is going to be really, really interesting because it's really going to come down to Danny Jacobs getting Gennady Golovkin's respect. If Danny Jacobs can gain Golovkin's respect in the first 3 rounds, then we have a serious fight. If he can't get his respect and Golovkin lands something early and Danny Jacobs is shook, which I don't think is going to happen, but anything is possible, then the fight will play out the way the odd makers expect the fight to play out, because Danny Jacobs is a heavy underdog in this fight. We'll see what happens, but it was really interesting getting Kell Brook's take, since he did give Golovkin his toughest fight to date. And I told you guys long time ago, way before this fight even came to fruition, Brook against Golovkin, I told you guys I believe that Kell Brook will be Golovkin's toughest fight to date. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. And that was a welterweight who did that. So we'll see, guys. We'll see what will happen. March 18th, I believe. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.